chances that I missed. Some I held, some slipped away. One street over where my memories exist. I wondered what would change, I really couldn't say. In this life there's nothing certain, except the curtain that rises to the stage. Silly games of second guessing, I just forget the lessons that I couldn't learn. Because one street over there's a life I could have known that would have kept me from the one I had today. Except the curtain that rises to the stage. Silly games of second guessing, I just forget the lessons that I couldn't learn. Because one street over there's a life I could have known that would have kept me from the one I had today. From my home, cracked and broken asphalt everywhere. I could have ended up just like that broken road, with a dead end in my path. Thank the Lord that I've got more than that. In this life there's nothing certain, except the curtain that rises to the stage. Silly games of second guessing.
Hello, good morning. This is 1100 WSGI. I'm U-Turn LaVern. Yeah, this is one street over. What you doing? Living one street over from where you living, what's going on. And we just are so excited to bring you a brand new week. God is good. We get to live and work in Robertson County. That's what Mayor Vogel likes
Wonderful
to say.
place.
Yes, it is. We're talking about the volumes on this. We're trying to fix our volume on our microphones here, and we're talking microphones and which ones we need and which ones, all the things. I love talking to you about the technology because I know you know a lot about it because you've been around.
Not anymore. I don't.
You don't? Come on.
Not like I used to.
Yeah, but nonetheless, Bill Jones is here, and this is something that people have requested. It's kind of like our visit we have with the White House folks up in the Chamber of Commerce, and we have the city manager come in. We've had our listeners, our viewers on social media have requested that we, do certain things, and that's one thing. And I've had many, many requests that we hear from Bill Jones every month on a set schedule just to talk about the history of Robertson County and history that just interests you. So how about that? And I appreciate you being so gracious. And that's the second Monday is when we do that, guys.
It's not hard to do. Today, I'd like to talk about the 1950s in Springfield and Robertson County.
Okay.
And, of course, I think about the 40s and the 30s and on back, but there's a lot that happened back then and around the turn of the century. But today, let's just talk about the 1950s, which I was born in 1944, and I went to school in 1950, my first grade. And so I thought I'd talk about the 50s because I'm very familiar remembering all of that.
Well, and that's kind of where we landed a little bit about what it was like when you started school, when we were first week of school last week, because we had a last minute cancellation we had to fill, and he very graciously came in Thursday morning. And that was the question I posed to you is, we're looking at the first day of school for kiddos right now. What was it like when you went to your first day of school, and you kind of shared that with us and the differences? And we're just sitting here talking about school and the nuances of school and discipline in school and all the things. And, it's just, it's a different world.
Well,
it's a different world.
I think teachers today are a lot more prepared for the problems of kids than they were back in the 1950s.
Right.
They're so much more educated now and aware of what's going on, because there's some strange things going on with families and children, and it's sad, what's happening to our families. But when I started, there were people who were scared to death. There were people afraid. There were people who weren't afraid and ready to go, was excited. And there were those students that just wasn't.
In regards to the students.
The student just starting.
Okay, gotcha.
Just starting. And the teachers were, all I had was female teachers.
Okay, right.
I don't remember a male teacher till I got to Springfield High School, and that was Mr. Bell, Philip Bell. And he taught history, but the rest of them were female. Today, you got a combination of male and female, which, it causes some problems. And, I had a guy approach me the other day, and he said, "Don't you think all our problems in schools is the teacher's fault?" I said, "No, I don't think that." And he just went on and on about it. I almost had to tell him, just get off that track, because that is not right. It's not, people at home are not raising their children like they should and teaching them moral things at home, and they expect the teacher to teach all this, but then the teacher gets waylaid, because they do something supposedly to a student. But anyway, we'll talk about the 1950s and just some of the statistics I found and came up with.
Hang on. My phone is going crazy here. I'm trying to get rid of the sound. I don't know.
I've heard that before.
Well, and it's like, it's just not playing nice with me. There it goes. There we go. Now I got it. Trying to check messages and stuff here. Okay.
First of all, have you ever just think about this? My father built a house in 1950 down on Connell Street. Mm-hmm. The average cost of a house back then, what do you think it would be?
Ooh, and
new house, build a new house.
Brand new house, $5,000.
Well,
I don't
that
know.
would be a cheap house.
How much was it? I mean,
$7,500.
Oh my gosh! But see, that's not much more than what I thought.
And
wow,
gas was. What do you think gas was? Price per gallon?
In the 50s per gallon, like 10 cents.
Around here it was 27. I have pictures of filling stations with 27 cents on a. You strike out ABC, you got one more and you're out.
Okay.
And I remember too, I remember going up toward Adairville on the left, there was a rest stop. All it was a picnic table. And back then, you didn't have interstates. There was no interstate through Robinson County in the 50s. We had just built Memorial Boulevard in 1957, and they had a special type of concrete they used, and they were the contractors and all in the state were very proud of this new type concrete. The only thing, the first time it rained, it turned like glass. It was just so slick. And I remember seeing cars sliding down the hill underneath a railroad track trestle on Memorial. They were sliding downhill. So they quickly came back and put asphalt on there, so it wouldn't be so slick. So anyway, back in the in the 50s, you didn't have interstates with rest stops, in them. The first interstate that Ike Eisenhower, the president, started with a new bill was in Pennsylvania Turnpike, I believe, in 1956. We didn't have road maps. I mean, we had road maps. We didn't have GPSs, but you needed a road map to get anywhere. You needed an extra tire because the roads weren't all that good, and the cars were hot. And you had to be patient. You remember
overheat, in other words.
Well, you just got hot in the summertime driving. Well, they would overheat if you get into mountains and things like that. Do you remember the little vent on the front window, little triangular vent on the window of the old cars? Well, on the driver's side, passenger side too, they would have a little triangular window, and you'd open it up and you could either crank it or push it open, and it would let air into the car. So
Yes, I do. Yeah, I do remember that.
Well,
we had some trucks.
that was there for
Yeah.
that was the air
But
conditioning.
that was instead of air conditioning.
You
Yeah,
didn't have
that
you didn't have air conditioning. The car didn't have seat belts.
Right. Oh, I know. We didn't have. I mean, we were in a terrible car accident when I was in 4th grade. Got hit by a drunk driver, and we may have had. I guess we probably had seat belts in the car, but we didn't use them. Nobody did.
Right.
And it's just a miracle
Well,
of God. We didn't all
50s
get
I had
killed
no.
in that.
I remember as a boy standing up. I was just a short guy on the front seat between my mother and father.
Oh, yeah.
And riding down the road, my hands back on the back of the seat.
We did the same thing. We'd lay up in the back glass.
Yeah.
We'd
lay
just
in the
lay
back.
up in the back glass and fall asleep. Yeah.
Now the cats lay back there. If you broke down, of course, it wasn't but 2-lane roads then. Broke down, you didn't have a cell phone. So you had to either catch a ride or somehow get into the next town so you could find a garage that would come out and fix your car. And that was rough in the summertime.
Well, and another wreck I had when I was coming back from, if you read Jesse, my book, I talk about
Yeah, I did.
because I fell asleep at the wheel coming back from Freed Hardeman my freshman year and put a car in a pond, and it was out in the middle. It was in Dukedom, Kentucky.
Yeah.
And
Nobody around.
it was the crack of dawn because I shouldn't have tried to drive home. And I had to wade out of the pond and go knock on a farmer's house door and borrow their phone. We didn't have cell phones back then. That was long before cell phones.
I remember I had
in 81.
I had a wreck on 76. Another fellow and I were going to go hunting, and we were going out early in the morning, like 6 o'clock, and I wrecked a Volkswagen. And what I didn't think to do is go to the next house and knock on the door and ask him if I could make a phone call. And I called my dad. He was still asleep. And he answered the phone. I said, "Who is this?" He said, "Who do you think it is?" No, I was nervous.
Sure.
I totally
It's just
destroyed
so
the car.
funny to talk about this, though. The things that were so common to us, not having cell phones and dealing with that, and now talking to my kiddos in school, it's just foreign to them.
Right.
Completely foreign to them. It's crazy. It's interesting. Go ahead, Bill. I'm
Also,
sorry. This is just bringing back memories.
We all know Elvis Presley, his first song. Do you remember what it was?
Oh, heavens
It was
no.
1954.
Yeah.
He recorded it. It's called "That's All Right."
Oh,
You
that
remember
was the
that?
first one. I remember the song, but I didn't know that was
Yeah,
his first recording.
you're not even alive.
Yeah.
And then I remember all of this stuff where he was considered scandalous.
Oh, yeah.
They thought he was. The preachers got upset, and everybody got all shook up.
Yes, they
And then
did.
they called a song like that.
Yeah.
And then I remember milk was delivered to our house in bottles. And early in the morning, you could hear the bottles rattling because the milkman had a metal rack he carried with the milk bottles in them. And you knew what time it was when you heard that rattling, because back then we didn't have air conditioner, the windows were open, and you could hear him, his truck come up and the rattling of the milk. So it sort of woke you up and you got up then. But then the milk bottle had a little paper cap. And if your mother would let you, you could peel the paper cap off, and you had it for breakfast. You put it on your cereal. But the paper cap is something we've all forgotten about, and you don't see them anymore hardly anywhere. And also, I had what was called a radio flyer wagon. This little red wagon. Not everybody had one, but it's sort of like having a Corvette today. You just had the latest and greatest little red wagon. And Western Auto, Mr. Stellmeyer, used to live across the street here, sold them at Western Auto. And you used them for everything. You had a nice handle on it. And I remember my dad said he sold papers when he was a boy, and he would carry his wagon down to the railroad track. There was a building right next to Southside Drugs, which they delivered the papers by train, and then somebody at that building would distribute them out, and he would go get his load of newspapers in his wagon. And it would be dark in the morning. And so he said he was afraid of the dark, so he put a rope on his handle of his wagon and let the handle drag on the road, making a noise so it would scare the paints away.
Oh, how funny.
So that's what he did to make it through the darkness of the morning with
That's
his
hysterical.
little wagon. But we had the wagons were the only modifications to those wagons was imagination. So
Well, you know, they still make red flower.
I know.
Yeah, my kids had them too.
Yeah.
Now they're different than the ones that we had.
How are they different?
I guess that I don't. Well, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they aren't
I
different.
don't know how they can make it unless they put wood sides on them or something. I
Yeah,
don't know.
and well, they do have some. They do have
Yeah.
some, and then they have the basic red flower wagon, but then they have a variety of different things. My daddy, he had gotten there's one that they make that the wood sides come off of, and then it's just like a flatbed wagon.
Yeah.
And my dad had gotten something like that from an Amish community and was buying it for the farm and the grandkids back home. And I remember they came through, and it wasn't a red flower. It was one that the Amish had made. And he got on that hill in front of my house and
Yeah.
started riding my children down that hill.
Yeah.
And
what
I
we did.
mean, that was big fun.
Yeah.
And that's just one of those memories. But we had so much, like you said, it's just limited only by your imagination what you could do with a wagon.
Right. That was your modifications
Yes,
for that wagon.
absolutely.
We went down, of course, where I live is a lot of hills. We went down the hills, walking up, going back down, pulling a little brother in it or something, put them in it and push them down the hill.
Oh, yeah.
And the tongue that you pull the wagon with was your steering wheel, which wasn't
Absolutely.
very good. What I used mine for, I found out that people had, we had a Coca-Cola plant down on North Main. It's now a Christmas tree manufacturing place on North Main on the right, and it's a bottling plant. And I found out if I could collect Coca-Cola bottles, they'd give me a quarter for a case of empty bottles. So I had regular customers, and I still remember them today because they're very nice to me to save their bottles in the garage, and I would come around every few months and collect them and put them in my wagon, and I'd walk all around the neighborhood in toward town, and then I'd walk down North Main to the bottling plant and sell them for a quarter.
Mm-hmm.
Candy was a penny a piece, little balls of candy. So I'd go then and maybe spend a nickel. I had a lot of candy.
That's correct.
Nobody was concerned about sugar content then.
No. It was a
So
different time.
that, my little wagon got a lot of use. Now you could use as I said, your imagination. You could turn it into an airplane or a boat or a race car or whatever, and you're going downhill or whatever you're doing or carrying
Out a helmet.
yeah, and none of us got hurt seriously or seriously killed.
There's always, that's the one thing I was thinking about too. I don't remember any crazy accidents, I mean, we were a little bit,
We had them, but
but
no big deal.
You just dust yourself off and get going again. But,
I'd be halfway killed. My mother says, "Suck it up."
that's how we were trained, and it's a different world. Yes, it is.
Also, I remember down at the Coke plant, there was a tunnel. It went under the road. I don't know why. It's still there, I'm sure.
Really?
A tunnel that went under the road to the other side, and nobody there now knows why it was
Had to
there.
have been something to do with their shipping or something or
There was
convenience.
nothing on the road other side except houses, and they've set back off the road.
That's interesting.
And there was a guy there, and his title was a straw picker. And they had these assembly line type things, and he was standing up on this thing, and the empty bottles going by. And if he saw one with a straw in it, he would pick it out. Of course, now it's
For
automated.
the recycles.
Yeah, recycling the bottles. And his job was called a straw picker.
And that was his solid.
That's what he did.
hysterical.
Of course, today's plastic bottle, they
Yeah.
throw them away. But then there's still some collector glass bottles around, say Springfield on the bottom. I see them on eBay all the time. People
Okay.
sell them. I had one or two. I don't know whatever I did with them, but those bottles sort of became collectible. But Coke plant was an interesting place to go to because you could, I guess if you sold a bottle, they'd give you a penny because in the Coke machines, they were a nickel.
Yeah.
That's what they cost, to get one.
5 cents. to get
And
soda.
So they would give me about a penny per bottle, so they didn't have to use new bottles.
You know, you talk about I can remember collecting soda bottles and taking them to the store, but I think we got more than, I don't remember how much
But
we got per.
you're younger than me.
Yeah, this was in the 60s, of course, but I can't remember how much we got for them. And I don't know when it stopped that you had a deposit on bottles here because, you know, they still have deposits in Michigan.
Oh, really?
Because when we're up there, you know, visiting family, you have to make sure your containers, I mean, even, I don't guess water bottle containers like that, but most of their containers have have some kind of a deposit on them for recycling. And
I've seen that written on there. I didn't know what
because
that
it says, and that is still a thing in Michigan. And what's fascinating, you know, my brother is involved. Our farm up in Kentucky, one of the, you know, you have to be diverse these days, and he has a recycling set up for the Pepsi Cola, I guess it is up there. And they crush the aluminum, flush the old liquids into the old livestock lagoons, and it's a great thing. It works good, and he can get money for the aluminum. The plastic's worthless. You know, people talk about recycling it and stuff. It's absolutely worthless. He can't. They have to recycle it because they recycle all of it. Yeah. But he doesn't get anything for the plastic they do.
We had another bottling company in Springfield called Cherry Cola, and it was out on South Main. Mm-hmm. But that's the only two I know of, Coca-Cola and Cherry Cola, that had any bottling. But it may have been somebody else I didn't know about.
Well,
but
there's a Coca-Cola plant in Paducah, and that I remember very well. And I don't know where the plant is that my brother does recycling with, but I think that's all Pepsi, if I'm not mistaken. But that's interesting, and it's how it's changed. And because Coca-Cola and things like that was a treat. You know, when we were kids. And now it's nothing. Yeah.
Well, when they first came out with it in the late 1800s, had heroin in it.
Or coke.
Cocaine in it. I mean, not heroin. Cocaine.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing.
Well,
it had cocaine.
A lot of the medicines the drugstore you got in the drugstore had stuff like that in them. Yeah. And to cure coughs, colds, and things like that.
Times have changed. Have changed. We're talking with Bill Jones, and he's just going through some historical memories of his own. From growing up, I mean, born and raised right here in Robertson County. Where were you born, by the way? Which hospital? Or were you born at home?
An old hospital. It was built in 1935 down on, what's the name of the street? Going down Fifth Avenue Hill, you turn right. Anyway, it was the old Springfield Hospital, Robertson County.
Was that before the one that's now where the prison?
Before the Jesse Holman Jones Hospital.
Okay, because when I moved here, they still had a hospital there.
Jesse Holman Jones was built in '57. That's when they opened.
Okay.
So.
And that's the one that's the county building now and has the prison and all that. That was the hospital. And
it was.
When I first moved here in '92, that was still open as a hospital. And then I don't know when did Northcrest open? Do you remember?
I've got all that at home because my dad raised all the money for it.
Help raise money on that, yeah, I know.
Around the 1980s, I believe. Okay. But
because was it
90s, 80s, and 90s?
Because I got here in '92, and we were still going to the hospital over there. Had they already started building it then?
I don't know. I haven't looked that up lately.
That's a challenge for you for next month.
Well, I won't remember it probably after I look it up.
But anyway.
Anyway, you think about the average house, we were talking about $7,500.
$7,500 that y'all built y'all's house for.
But that house had one bathroom, no matter how many kids were there. Yeah. One bathroom, maybe one TV if you had a lot of money. TVs back then cost about $1,000.
Really?
They were expensive. And the first ones came on a stand. They were a little box sitting on a TV stand. Right. And I can remember my dad bought Henry and Bell furniture from the Bell family.
Right.
And my job was to put these little metal TV stands together and put the TV, and they were heavy, big old box, heavy TVs. And we had a little area. I remember we had displays of trying to get some kind of antenna on the roof that would come down and it didn't have but 3 channels, you know, the educational channel was 2 then. So we had 4, 5, and 8. And then later, 8 and 2 switched. Yeah. But the educational channel went to 8. And ABC went to 2. I don't know why they did that, but I remember when the switch was. But anyway, if you had a TV, you had no remote control. And usually I was the remote.
The kids were. Get up and change that.
Get up and change that channel. I don't like that. Gotta change that channel.
Yeah.
And I can remember selling TVs, not in the 50s, but later, when they started coming out with digital, where you had a remote and you changed the channels. Some of the older people didn't like it. They wanted the manual channel and go back in 2 and 4 and 5, so they didn't like it. I'd take them back and find an older TV for them to buy because they could use that without a remote control. Mm-hmm. And the first remotes came out had a clicker, click, 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 And then if the clicker went bad, your remote was gone. There wasn't any batteries in it. Just click, click.
But you could still change it physically on the TV.
And usually I remember the old television had 4 knobs, a volume and a channel and something else, vertical
contrast and color.
I remember
when they had color, but then they had the one that would lighten and darken it too.
Yeah, right.
Not in a
I remember
picture.
We had a serviceman that worked on televisions, and he lived down toward Clarksville, and we had a lady that constantly gave us complaints about the TV she bought. Mm-hmm. And so, it was nothing wrong. And we went down there. And so finally one day he said, look, I'll go down there on my way home. I'll stop by there. Mm-hmm. So he came in the next day. He said, I don't think we'll have any more phone calls from her. Well, why is that? He said, well, what I did, I got behind it, and it had a vertical control knob, where the picture was rolling up, or down. And he said, I rolled that picture up real fast and then started slowing it down real slow. And I said, you pick out the one you think is the best.
Oh, no.
And she did. Never had another call from her.
Oh, that's hysterical.
Me. Average salary in 1950 per year, what do you think?
Per year, average salary. See, I'm a farm girl, so we didn't gauge salaries.
You're not doing very well so far. So.
I know. I didn't have a concept of what a salary
was. It was $3,200 a year.
$3,200 a year.
And on that, people could buy a house, buy a car, feed the food for a family, and raise a family, 2 kids or something, on that a year. It's amazing, but everything is relative.
That's crazy.
And you could people went on vacations back then, usually once a year, so they could do that too. Remember the school lunches? I remember in the old Main Street school I went to, started in the first grades, I remember the school lunches, and there was maybe a meatloaf, mashed potatoes, and green beans.
Oh, yeah.
And a little bitty carton of milk.
Yeah.
And that was it, And you would like it whether you did or not, because the cook back there was standing there, and she looked like she could wrestle a bear, 2 of them at the same time, and you don't want to make her mad,
I remember.
And there were no pizza pockets or chocolate milk or anything like
we
that.
Had pizza. We had pizza when I was in school. We had
we didn't.
Little square.
I never heard of a
pizza. If I remember correctly, and we'd have hamburgers and stuff like that. But how much were the lunches? How much did they cost?
I think mine was 50 cents or 75,
I think
like
ours
that.
was about 75 to $1 or something like that for our lunches. Something, and honestly, that's one of those things that hasn't gone up. Because I think that our lunches at school right now are $2.75, which is
didn't know
not.
what they were.
It's not as much as I thought it would be in contrast to what it was when we were kids. Ours may have been 75 cents. I don't think ours were $1, but and just and a lot of people ate the lunch. You just went through the lunchroom and it was just different. It was just different, very different. But that's that's probably one of my most vivid memories of school is being in lunch, because that's where everybody was just kind of do their own thing and those types of things. So, those we had a lot of memories from that.
Yeah.
But, interesting. I'm talking with Bill Jones and talking about childhood memories of the 50s and kind of playing off of what we started with last week when we had the unexpected visit from Bill, talking about what it was like when he started school and what it was like just growing up in Robertson County in the 50s. Did you know, when we think about the 50s, we think about Fonzie and Laverne and Shirley and all of that kind of, and I right after I had some surgery on my hand right before school started, and there was nothing to watch, and I found that there's a network called Pluto TV, which is just all
I'd heard of that one.
It's one you have to get the app for. And
Oh,
then you can
okay.
cast it onto your television. And do you do all that? Do you cast video from your phone to your television?
No.
Do you know how to do that?
No,
Um,
I don't watch TV that much.
yeah,
I'm usually reading.
right.
I don't.
Something like that.
Yeah.
But I got to watching old LaVern and Shirley episodes when I was trying to, for the
I
couple of
remember
days
that.
that I was laid up from my hand surgery, and it was just kind of funny because that's set in the 50s. So the persona we see of the 50s, like Grease and all of that, was that really a thing in the 50s?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Very,
Really?
very accurate, I think.
Huh,
Yeah.
really?
Larger areas, not so much around, in a minor way here. Yeah. But,
So you had the sock hops and all that kind of thing.
Yeah,
Big poodles. Did girls wear those big poodle skirts, or is that just
Yeah,
a costume thing?
yeah. Another thing my wife and I were talking about the other day, there are people who, when they were in school, they felt slighted because they weren't as pretty or they weren't as wealthy or they weren't this smart or whatever. And so they felt like they were not as good. And that went all through their life, and they don't show up at reunions because they still have those feelings.
Oh, that's
That's
shame.
amazing to me.
Yeah.
Because when they see the people at reunions, they feel like they're second rate because of the way they were treated when they were young or where they thought they were treated. And I told my wife, I don't remember thinking of anybody as poor or anything like that. I just thought everybody's the same way. I didn't even think about that. But yet, when people come to school and they don't have the clothes and they don't have what the regular students have, they feel inferior.
Yeah.
And, it's hard to get young kids and teenagers to feel empathy for somebody their age. They're so into themselves, they don't, it's hard for them to do that. But we really need to teach that and emphasize that people feelings do matter and need to guard against making out like we're something we're not. But
Right.
anyway.
Very good. Well, we're let's go ahead and I'll tell you what, we're at the bottom of the hour, so let's go ahead and do our ad. I'm going to hold off on Bernard Farms because now they're taking off on Sundays and Mondays right now. I mean, it's getting into harvest time and all those things. So we're going to talk more about them on the days when we can say, hey, stop by there. But they're taking a break on Sundays and Mondays right now. So we'll talk about them. We've been talking about them on Mondays through the summer, but we're going to transition and move their ad to Tuesday. But we talk every day about Barry and Rebecca Richards with Exit Prime Realty because they have been our longest full-time sponsor. And we're talking about this cool little car that they got for the Cross Plains police department. It's just the cutest. It's one of those smart cars. It was just to commemorate that they've been part of the Cross Plains community for 30 years. I see them all over town. If there's something going on around the city that needs sponsorships and those kinds of things, they are out being a part of it in the Cross Plains community and all over Robertson County. We'll see them pop up because they love their community and they love being a part of it. So they specialize in Robertson County properties, but they also buy and sell in the surrounding counties and across the state line in Kentucky because they've got a diverse background. Rebecca, we, don't talk a ton about this, but she was working in radiology, then stayed home with her kids. And then when she was getting ready to go back to the workforce after her kids got in school, she's like, well, what do I really want to do? And she had been dabbling in real estate and decided to go full on to make real estate her career. And there you go. She decided she wanted to make sure she picked a company to work with that had everything they needed. And that was Exit. And it's still Exit for them. For a long time, she was part of the Garden Gate team. She's one of the first in the area to be a senior real estate specialist. But once Barry came on board, he opened a brokerage office here in Springfield. She has her agency office out in White House. They eventually took their two offices and brought you a new branch in the Exit tree in their Exit Prime Realty. And so what they'll say to you, everything you need from buying and selling, they've got it covered. If you're somebody that wants to get into real estate, you want to be mentored to do what they do in real estate, you can do that as well. They are the perfect company to work with, and you are going to enjoy working with them. It's Barry and Rebecca Richards with Exit Prime Realty. You can get in touch with them today. Go to sellwithbecky.com, sellwithbecky.com, or buy, BUY, robertsoncounty.com. And always please let them know that U-Turn sent you. And as always, too, don't forget if you need a marketer or having Barry on your team, That's going to make a big difference for you, making sure that everybody sees that property and make it pop off the page because he can do all the things, the videography, the photography, the drone footage, walkthrough tours. They're the whole package. Barry and Rebecca Richards, Exit Prime Realty. Let them know U-Turn sent you. Bill Jones, what do you want to talk about? You want to keep going with your, you got more things, or was the income the last, was that income, or have you got another one? Because you said the income, the average income.
$3,600.
$3,600. Honestly, truthfully, it's not a whole lot more than that in Mexico, right now. Because when we were down
Well,
there,
a lot of countries.
yeah, because I was talking with a friend of mine about the rate of pay for something she's affiliated with. And I said, what is full-time pay? And she said it was something like $300 a month. So, it's not even that in Mexico,
No.
It's insane. And
No.
I'm like, what in the world? How do they live? But anyway, go ahead. What have you got next?
Well, all the houses when I was in the 50s, they would start seeing these black and white antennas on the roof. Now, they were real elementary antennas, but you'd see them put them on a pole around the chimney and stuff. And the TV shows I first remembered, one called I Married Joan. That was a TV show, and I don't know why I remember that when I was in Main Street School. It had a song. All the TV shows had songs.
Theme songs.
They came out with a theme, and it'd make you sing it all day long.
Right.
It's in your mind. And I still remember that song, I Married Joan. Oh, no.
Come on, Bill.
No.
I want to hear.
And I Love Lucy. I Love Lucy was another one I loved to watch. And but we all, and Ed Sullivan. Now that guy, he came on in 1956, and his show was called Toast of the Town. That was, instead of the Ed Sullivan Show, he called it Toast of the Town. And I remember when he had Elvis Presley come on. I remember when I was in college when they had Beatles. I was a sophomore in college, and we all gathered around the TV set that had their one TV in the dorm, and we all watched the Beatles come over from England and sing, and that was unique. I never forgot that. But in the grocery stores back then, my mother, everybody in town walked to town. People didn't drive to town. It was a small town. Connell Street was way out west of town, where the high school is, and people walked to town. They walked. I didn't think anything about it. I walked to town or rode my bicycle or something. And most everybody around here worked in town, or the woolen mill or something. Woolen mill used to not be in the city limits when they first built it, but it was down on North Main.
Okay.
But people walked to work there, they walked to town, and of course, they walked to get their groceries. And if they had a lot, sometimes Mr. Eddie Estes worked at Hill's store. He's the manager, and I worked there as a teenager because he was my next door neighbor, so he gave me a job there. And sometimes I'd take the grocery cart and roll it to the house down on Oak or Walnut Street or down on Cheatham Street when didn't have anything else to do, and there's an older woman or something. And I can remember there was a guy who came in and had one leg, and his pants leg would be pinned up, and evidently he was hiding some food in the pants leg, and he got outside. I was taking his groceries out to the outside for him, and pants leg broke. All these vegetables came rolling out.
Oh, my goodness.
But anyway, we had one lady, too. It was very well known in town to pick up stuff and not pay for it, So what happened to merchants, when she came to town, each merchant called the next merchant, and they had this phone system and say, Mrs. So-and-so's in town. So Eddie Estes, the manager, he would assign me to follow her around and write down everything she took.
Oh,
and then they sent a bill home, and some husband or somebody paid it. And I thought, well, that's different, But grocery stores were small.
Yeah.
They weren't very big. They didn't have a whole lot of brands. They just had one that worked, so they stuck with that, And had a meat market, and you had to get a meat man back there, and he'd chop up stuff for you and everything. So the grocery stores were quite different then.
Yeah.
Didn't have plastic bags. It was all paper bags,
I can remember we had Fossumdale's grocery store, and it was Monroe's. The Monroe family owned it, and we would go in there, and they had the meat counter where they would slice meat for you as you weigh.
Yeah, you could stand there and watch them.
You better believe it. And to this day, they had some kind of a a ham that they would barbecue, and it nothing like any ham I've ever found. That it was, I guess it was. I don't know how they made it, but it was what I would eat before every ball game because it was real mild or something. But it's like I'd make a sandwich out of
Not
that.
salty.
No, not at all. It was more like it was roasted, like they took a shoulder or and roasted it, not in the way that they do barbecue. It wasn't smoked, but it was roasted and super lean. And I mean, and that's what I would have for my before I would go and play ball. And but I can remember Bill and Jeanette Monroe, still to this day, and those are just big memories. But like you said, it's a really small little grocery store.
Well, another thing
than a convenience store, and I think now it is a convenience store. That building is.
And I remember that most of our produce came from farms around here.
Right.
They didn't come in big company trucks,
Right.
The farmers would come in and sell tomatoes or onions or whatever, and everything came from the milk, came from milk farmers and milk people out in the country.
Yeah.
All our stuff came from the country.
Yeah.
And it was all organic. Nobody used the word organic because that's what it was.
What it was.
You didn't hear that word.
Exactly.
And I think it was healthier myself.
My
but
goodness, yes, absolutely.
now they come in and slap you with a fine if there's least little bit something wrong. And I don't know. Maybe that's right.
I don't understand the controversy over all the raw milk because we used to get milk right out of the tank. Because I mean, my parents, when I was a little girl, we had a dairy, and
I
they
remember
had the
you
tank
telling me
room.
that.
They had the tank room, and they would draw milk right out of that tank,
Right.
and that's what we drank. I mean, you just
not
never thought
pasteurized.
No, I mean, it was
Right.
just right out of the tank there. And, I mean, but it's interesting. A couple of things before we were talking about the 1950s and how if they really did have poodle skirts and all that. I see my friend Lee Marie, if you don't know her, she loves to dress up. She loves to put on costumes.
I saw.
And she has a poodle skirt. I've seen it. Well,
I've seen pictures of her with it.
they're having a 1950s sock hop at her place. Well in the Square is her kind of a business venue that she's been working with for a couple of years now. It's right there by Crossroads Christian. And so they have the space right beside Crossroads Christian, which is well in the Square, but then they also have the space downstairs in Crossroads Christians. It's like a bigger room that they use as well. So well in the Square has two spaces that they use. And so they're going to have this 1950 sock hop on Friday, August 22nd. That's not this Friday, it'll be the next, 6:30 at Well in the Square. It's going to be in the room inside Crossroads. So you'll have to go in Crossroads and down the stairs there. But it's $15 for adults, 10 for kids, 3 to 12, and under 3 is free. And if you don't dance, come in and she's going to teach you. She'll teach you how, but she loves to dress up, and that'll be fun. But I kind of think it's kind of funny that they've got a sock hop playing, and here we're talking about the 50s today. How
that
perfect
room
timing.
It was in the Randolph House and Company building, and that room downstairs where they sold all the Boy Scout uniforms and Girl Scout uniforms.
Really?
And I'd go down there and I'd like to get one of these, or I couldn't buy a lot, but maybe with a little bit of money, I did mowing yards and things. I'd go down and buy a hat or something, and it was right down the steps to the right.
Okay.
Never forget that.
Well, let me say one other thing about that space too. While they've got the American Legion building being renovated there in Greenbrier, they normally do the TFA meetings there, but they've moved
Changed it tonight.
They were last month, and then tonight. Yeah. The TFA is going to be meeting at Well in the Square.
It's very interesting. A lot of people there and a lot of political people running for office.
Yeah. And they always have a potluck at 6, and then the program is at 6:30. But the American Legion should have their renovations complete to where they'll be back out at the American Legion next month for the TFA meeting. So those are just a couple of notes.
I'm going to be there.
That's a couple of notes from Lee Marie about TFA tonight, and then the Well in the Square 1950 sock hop next Friday, which will be a lot of fun. She's a blast. She's a lot of fun to hang out with. Nancy Arnold and Elaine Spurlock, Paul Rainey, all saying good morning and hi this morning. And there was something on my mind I wanted to ask you about, and it escaped me now.
Nancy Arnold and I are going to do the program for the Senior Citizen Center next Thursday.
Okay.
It's a potluck lunch.
I have something.
Anybody can come.
I ran into
Nancy's going to do pictures. I'm going to do stuff like this.
I ran into John Cohey's grandmother at the Great Recovery Fest this weekend. We were at Recovery Fest, and John's grandmother came up and said, he is at Lipscomb. We're so proud of you, John.
I know. I saw that.
I was praying over you this morning and last night because I knew you had to get on campus last night. I'm so excited for you, and y'all take good care of him. Lipscomb's my alma mater. And but I ran into his grandma and grandpa at the Recovery Fest, and she was saying he is super disappointed he's not going to get to hear you, and wanted to know if I could record it. And I said, there is no way, because it's in the middle of the day, isn't it? Isn't it during the day?
Yeah, lunchtime.
See, I'll be at school. Well, what I told her I would do is I have, we use those little tripods that put your phone on it. Do you have an Apple phone?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would like to do that. I was thinking about that the other day.
I'm going to get you to record it. I'm going to bring you a tripod.
Okay.
And because I've got one I can loan you from school, because I've got 3 or 4 of them. But I'll loan you one from school. So
Okay.
I'll bring it and I'll keep it here and text you when I've got it here.
Okay.
And you can stop by one morning and get it. And I'll give you a quick little instruction on how to set it up.
I'll send a message to John telling him I was going to be there next week.
Yeah. Well, he's super disappointed he's not going to get to hear it, but she asked me, is there any way we could record it? Yeah. Now, what we'll have to do, we can't really mic it or anything, but what we can do is you can just put your phone on a stand, put it up where you can be heard, and it'll be just fine.
Okay.
And then, so you said Nancy's going to put pictures out?
Yeah, she's doing the pictures, I'm doing the talking.
Well, then
after
your talk.
You never know how it's going to work out.
After your talk, I'm going to show you how to take the phone around and then just take shots of all the pictures.
Nancy and I grew up together.
Okay.
She's younger than I am, but we're sort of kin, I think, too. I remember her mother. And anyway, her daddy used to have an airplane, and one time we were out at the airport, and it was windy. He was going to go take off, and he got up in the air, and he couldn't leave the airport because it was so windy. He just set it back down and put it back in the hangar.
I had an uncle that flew, and he and his son both, he started flying, and he had a landing strip on the farm. And so we'd get together for family reunions, and here come Uncle Joe, and he loved flying. That was just something he was had a curiosity about.
I remember his gas gauge on his plane was a little cork with a wire on it and bent over out in front of the windshield. And you had marks on the wire to know how much gas you had left in the tank.
Isn't that funny?
And the seat was like a car seat in the plane.
Mm-hmm. Uncle Joe had some contractions.
I'd never forget that.
Flew too. So
yeah.
Talking with Bill Jones, we got about 10 more minutes. If you have any questions for him, you want to throw them up in comments, I will certainly share those with him. Appreciate y'all hanging out with us. This is just what we do on the second Monday of the month. We sit down and we talk to Bill just about something he's interested in history, and it's really a reminisce this week as we're starting back to school. Just what was it? We know what life is like for us as we're going to school. What was discipline like in the schools? All those kinds of things. It's changed very much.
Used to be spankings.
Oh, I got paddled. Did you ever get paddled?
No.
You didn't, really?
No.
Mr. Slavette.
Can't do that now.
Well, just 10 years ago, they did. It's only been in the last 10 years.
I thought it had been gone a long time.
I had a principal tell me that said that it was only about 10 years ago that they were still being issued paddles. And so it's very difficult to know how to, I'm not a proponent of that, but I'm just saying, how do you exert discipline to get control of a classroom? Because that's the biggest problem right now, is controlling our classrooms. Children, inevitably in every class you have somebody that does not respect authority at all. And I'll have to say, though, as I'm looking over my classes right now, I've got a really good bunch of kids this year. Sure seems like I do, because I've gone and talked, I kind of do like this little introductory thing with my kiddos. I've got my AV2s that I know the kids, and they're all good kids. And then I have my AV1s that I'm just getting to know. They just sure seem to be. Now, they may not be comfortable with me yet, and then they may really show out here in the next couple of weeks as they get a little more comfortable with my procedures. But I'm telling you, my initial reaction, because you can kind of feel when you're in the classroom, you're like, that kid's going to be a handful. Yeah. That is a little bit of a knucklehead. I'm not really sensing that this year. And I'm tickled that it looks like I've got a group that's going to be a little more easy to handle. And I'm hopeful, You know, there was even one that I was a little cautious about, but then as I've kind of interacted with them, I'm like, no, they're going to be all right. They were more respectful. I was expecting them to be kind of snide with me,
Yeah.
and then we were going back and forth talking, and they weren't. And I was like, okay, well that's good. But back then, you didn't dream of acting like that. Mr. Slavette was the one who paddled me, and I guess he was probably the only one.
What'd you do?
I was in FFA. This was in high school. And I was one of the only girls. It may have been me and Dina. I think I was the only girl in this class because I was one. We had very few women or very few girls that joined FFA, but I was that girl. I was like, I'm going to do everything because I was the girl that's like everything you told me I couldn't do, I was going to show you I could. Because
Tomboy.
Oh man, to the core,
Yeah.
to the core. But not only that, and again, we get into all the church stuff because I'd been told no in my church too, and just at my very being, I just don't even. We're not going down that rabbit hole. But so anything you told me I couldn't do, I was going to show you I could. And so there was a few girls before me. I wasn't the first. I mean, there was some older girls that were in it, but it was only a couple. But I was in home ec 1 year, and I was like, I can't do this. This is not my thing. And so I joined I joined the agriculture
I can
classes
see that.
my sophomore year and became part of the FFA, did the public speaking for them. I was there. I did horticulture. I did impromptu speaking. They never would. I was always wanting to be the auctioneer, but we had a boy I grew up with whose daddy was an auctioneer, so he always got to do the auctioneer stuff. But nonetheless, I think I was the only girl in this class at that time. And Mr. Slavette had something he wanted us to do. And like a bunch of knuckleheads, we just didn't do it. And we took off and went out to the playground, and we're all just kind of sitting. I mean, we were just being brats. I mean, absolute brats. And we just, because he was a little bit eccentric, you know, and he was just different than what and he wasn't local, you know, he hadn't grown up there. He was from out, you know, he was Polish, and it was just different. He was just somebody we'd never encountered. And I remember him, we just took off and were headed up to the playground. There was probably, I don't know, not even 10 of us. And we were up there sitting on this log, just kind of just pretending that he didn't tell us to stay in classroom. We just took off. He came there with paddle and paddled every one of us, the girl included, and he lit us up. And, you know, we didn't do that to Mr. Slavette anymore.
Right.
But anyway, but yeah. And he got me one other time, and I can't remember what for, but he didn't put up with it. I had a teacher throw an eraser at me one time, or, you know, like threw it at him, but I was sassy.
It reminded me of the racer, Mr. Philip Bell, who is Grant Bell's grandfather down at the down at Innovation Academy now. He would teach, and of course, he'd teach history, and it's sort of boring sometimes, so he would stand on his desk with a eraser on his head and teach. We never forgot it.
It's hysterical. To keep your attention.
Yeah.
That's
and
hysterical.
You didn't throw spitballs or anything. You were watching. What's he going to do next, you know?
Oh, my gosh.
And you learned.
Yeah.
But he was very innovative in that way. He was a very smart man.
You know, my friend Barry Leonard, he retired from teaching recently, and I think I mentioned this to somebody the other day. I think Mandy Christensen was coming in from White House. It was the day she was coming in to talk about the White House chamber. And apparently they've got a crossing guard between here and White House somewhere at one of the schools that's doing dancing and just being silly.
Yeah.
My friend Barry, he and I grew up together. He would do crossing guard and get out there and dance and wear costumes and do all kinds of silly things. And he was a history teacher.
Yeah.
And I could see him doing something like that to keep the kids' attention, because he was just
history is boring. Just talking about when you were born and when you died, and somebody, you got to add. It had life in it. You just got to tell about it.
Yeah, I think Barry's class would have probably been interesting, but we've got Mr. Wood at our class, Coach Woods, that teaches history, and I think he would be. I've never had him for a class, but I think he would be entertaining. That's the thing. Keeping your kids' attention, it's people just have no idea what teachers are up against. They really don't.
Right.
And you had the ability to, you know, have a better option of keeping discipline in the class because children were taught to. Because I talk about I was sassy and all this kind of stuff with my teachers. Well, if I got in trouble at school, I got in trouble when I got home too.
That doesn't happen now, though.
No. It's like, well,
Usually they go back after the
they
teacher.
go back after the teacher now, and that's the problem. And it's just such a shame. And I don't think it's necessarily. I've had some encounters with some students, and I know their parents, and I know the parents aren't teaching them. It's what they're getting on social media.
Yeah,
You
right.
know, I've
That's
had several
big deal today.
Yeah, I've had several things that have happened with kiddos, and I'm like, I know you weren't raised to act like that. I know you weren't raised to be disrespectful to your teacher. I know it because I know who your parents are. And so, but they're getting so much from these devices. You know, they get on TikTok and they see, it's kind of like the parents that never wanted their kids to watch The Simpsons because of the disrespect of that disrespectful persona that was painted. I didn't let my kids watch The Simpsons. You know, I mean,
Talking about Homer?
Yeah, because it was all just so disrespectful and just so snide. And
I hadn't thought about
that was something I never let them watch. Now, I let them watch other things I shouldn't have watched because I go back and see some of the old shows now. I'm like, I can't believe I let my kids watch that. But now one thing, too, some of the things that I see now digitally that we maybe have watched when my kids were growing up, they were edited differently to be put on. We're about out of time. What else do you want to cover before we?
You
get
know, we
done?
got a
We're about all
Whataburger
over
in
the place.
town.
Do what now?
We have a Whataburger in town.
Yes.
I go there a lot.
Yeah.
But the first one in Tennessee was actually built in Dickerson Road in the mid-'50s. And as a teenager in the late 50s, we would go by there and eat Whataburgers. We'd drive over there, all the way over there to get a Whataburger. And I remember somebody, I don't know, they dared me to eat 7 of them.
Oh, no.
And I did.
Oh, my.
I don't know how I did that. But anyway, it was the little white building on the left before you get to Skyline Hospital over there, between Goodlettsville and Skyline. It's still there. I saw it the other day. I don't know what's in there. It's something, but it's a little white building. And I can remember going up to it as a drive-through. You know, you didn't go inside. You just went up. You went in and drive-through. Actually, you walked up to a window and ordered your hamburger.
So if I'm on 41 and I'm coming between Goodlettsville and Skyline, is it on the left or the right?
It's on the left.
I'll look for it because I'm down through there all the
It's
time.
like a little shopping center there or something behind it. It's a lot going on right there.
Yeah, but it's a
little
white
stuff.
building.
Yeah, a little white
I
building.
gotta look for that. I want to know. So were the
picture of it.
Were the burgers kind of the same as they are now?
They're bigger than they are now.
Oh, really? So
But they were right tasty. Of course, you didn't have all the stuff now that.
They had Crystal and White House, and then it left. Or which one did they have?
There's White Castle and Crystal, but I
White Castle.
don't know. I don't remember it being White House.
Well, that's me. I said White House because I've just been talking about White House, but White Castle and Crystal. But we had White Castle locally, didn't we? And then they all
Not
went
that I
away
know
and came
of.
back,
I don't
or
remember
was
it being
Crystal
here.
always?
I don't remember Crystal being here.
Really? Okay.
Until,
Whataburger.
just
I didn't
lately.
realize Whataburger because that was such a thing.
Now,
when we were down in Texas.
We did have a
and then they
place
brought
called
back
Vernon's.
Vernon's. I've heard people
was
talk
where-
about Vernon's.
Yeah, where Walgreens is now.
Okay.
And we could drive, teenagers, we'd drive around. And Paul Morton was a guy who hopped the cars. And he would come out, and he'd park behind Vernon's, and he'd take your orders. He didn't write them down. He remembered every one of them.
How funny.
And he'd go in and bring it out, and you give him a tip, and he usually told you some kind of something that was another tip, But we would drive around Vernon so you could be seen as a teenager. If you had a car, not always had cars. Cruising around Vernon's.
Yeah.
And Vernon's been there a long time. They used to he started selling watermelons and fruit there in a little stand, Mr. Vernon did, Vernon Johnson.
Yeah.
And he turned it into a restaurant. Now, I have a picture of it, the front of it. But he lived in a little white house over to the right. I don't know what's there now.
A lot of people talk about Vernon's and stuff.
And the little house is now going towards Cedar Hill on the left, sitting out beside another big house that some Johnsons lived in, but the little white house is still there.
So they moved it? Or?
Moved it. Yeah, they moved it.
Oh,
so
okay.
It was not called Memorial Boulevard then. It was just 41.
Highway 41.
And then, in 57, it became Memorial Boulevard, and they 4-laned it. And across the street was, what was the name of that place? It was a beer joint. There was a lot of beer joints around town.
Because, this was a this was a brouhaha place.
Shale Rock. That was the name of it, Shale Rock. And the thing about beer joints, they had them uptown, Midway Cafe, and, they had jukeboxes, and you could stand, as a kid, you couldn't go in there. But if somebody played the jukebox, you could hear it out on the street. So you got free music. And Wingo's, when they opened, which would be across from Stuart Williams now, Bill Wingo had a little box at the table that you could put a nickel in and it'd play a song. He advertised phones, and he'd bring a phone out and plug it in. There was a plug at each table if you got a phone call. Well, who got a phone call? Elvis Presley stopped by there once. But I remember Mr. Wingo, Bill Wingo, there, and he had a restaurant called 10th Avenue Cafe. Before that, which was across the road tracks, Cheatham Street, you turn right, it's a little building on the left. People went there after church on Sunday to eat. Yeah. And then he had a place on 431 South before that. But he was a restaurant guy. Yeah. And he was...
That's amazing.
His wife...
We're going to have to wrap it up here.
Okay.
Top of the hour.
Go ahead. We'll do it another time.
There's just so many things. We get to chasing rabbits and stuff, and I know you had more you wanted to cover, but we can pick it back up when you hang on to that, because that's all interesting stuff. But I've been talking with Belshire. Let's see. There's people. Let me read these comments real quick. Benny Snotty, Belshire, it's a hot wings. What is he talking about? Belshire, it's a hot wings. Okay, I bet he's talking about the Whataburger.
Oh,
I bet he's talking about what the Whataburger is. Okay, we'll go check that out, Benny. But he's saying that I think it's in Belshire, and it's a hot wings place now. So I'll go check that out, because that's where the Whataburger was. And Nancy's saying she also had to circle Vernon's every time she was in town, see who was out there.
Oh, yeah, that was a big deal.
And Kathy Sneed giving applause. See, everybody loves this stuff. They love all this reminiscent.
Brings memories back and good feelings.
Well, and like you said, it prompts memories for me back home. Things that y'all can't necessarily relate to, but it just prompts those memories. I know we're old, y'all, but there's something unique about our memories, because it's going to...
20, 30 years from now, they'll be talking about how good it was now.
Oh, I know. And they'll be I can't imagine how foreign the things that were so common to us will be, because the generations were born with these in their hands.
Right.
And what that's going to do. I don't know. Pray for us, y'all.
Well,
we figure this out, and we get a
AI
handle
is
on
making
this
the
stuff.
next big jump is AI, artificial intelligence.
I'm telling you, and be careful. That's one thing I catch people all the time sharing stuff on social media. Look at this wonderful story, and it's just so warm and fuzzy and beautiful, and it's all AI generated.
And it's video.
Yeah, and it looks real, but you question it, and you have to go back in and go. You go, okay, you can make a quick Google search and go, is this truly happening? Is this real? Just ask that question. And I'm telling you what, about 50% of the time on these little warm and fuzzies, wow, that's an incredible story. It's not real. Yeah, right. It's not real. Because what they're doing is on AI, they're trying to generate these stories that just get you here. So you'll share them and you'll click on them.
And they make money.
That's right. And you also
I've been offered money for stuff I put on there. I just don't do it.
We had the question, and I know we got to go, in class yesterday, in Bible class, talking about there's so much information out there, and how do you discern what's good and what's bad, and is there too much information? I never think there's too much information, but because there is so much information, you have to constantly discern and see if what they're sharing is true, because people will put up these Bible stories and these wild things about, look at this and look at this, and there's this, and you go, wow.
Then there's things real they think is fake.
Exactly. And then you start checking into it, and well, that's not right, that's not right, that's not right. You've got to constantly be studying in the Word, first and foremost, and then in every aspect of our life, I think we have to study. We've got so much at our fingertips because of this, but while it's wonderful and convenient, it's making us having to dig more. But I think it's making us smarter as a whole. I really do. What say you, Bill?
You have to. You just can't sit back and let things happen. You've got to constantly check.
Got to be studying. Checking to see if what
they
say is true.
Enjoy it.
We'll
do it again.
Be a Berean in everything you do, not just biblically.
Go back and check.
Be a Berean, and if you don't know what that means, look it up. Be a Berean, and you'll understand. There you go. I love it. God bless you guys. Thank you for the day. Tonight's a board meeting for the school board. They'll be meeting, and then Dr. Weeks will come in here and tell us all about it tomorrow on 1100 WSGI. God bless. Have a absolute fabulous day. Again, this is 1100 WSGI.